worked. I'm going to go find out more about that.
Brian, so obviously we'll get into all the games. I know in the latest Hoop Collective podcast, which I will listen to later, you did talk about the Warriors. So let's start where they ended is where we'll start today. What is next for that team?
Look, here's the thing. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they finished 6th. You remember they lost the Lakers in the first round? Mm-hmm. I know you remember that. It was a big moment for you.
Wow.
Last year they finished 10th. This year they finished 7th. They're a middling team. I mean, you can debate the word middling. The Butler trade gave them hope. When they did the Butler trade, they were in 11th. Like, they're fun to watch. Steph is still awesome. They're a borderline middle of the pack team. That's what they are. And by the way, I don't say that to be insulting. The 2022 championship was one of the great accomplishments in the NBA in the last 25 years. For them to go all the way down to end up with the second pick, which was mildly manufactured, but still, they were one of the worst 5 teams in the league. And then a couple years later, build it all the way back up and take that championship when they were down in the series 2-1. Incredible accomplishment. But they're a middle of the pack team. That's what they are. Is there a move out there that can change it? Maybe. Do I think they'll make it? No. Just enjoy watching Steph Curry. He's probably going to play 2 more years. Maybe he play 3, but probably 2. The whole organization is set up for him to play 2 more years. So I know it's not a hot take, and I know that it's is his championship window closed? I'm like, they've been a middling team for 3 years. The championship window wasn't really open. So,
Wendy, we had the draft lottery on Monday. End of the week, we've got the NBA Combine. What are some of the news and notes, some of the things people need to be paying attention to coming off of this weekend?
So I think it's interesting that the Mavericks took about 6 minutes to decide they were taking Cooper Flag.
Very public about that. That normally doesn't happen. That's interesting.
You're right. And they're like, no. Cooper Flag, we're taking you. No more trades. No more trading potentially historically great players. So that was interesting. 2, the number 2 pick in the draft will be the big swing pick. That's what we're going to be talking about when the playoffs end. The Spurs got it. The Spurs jumping up. By the way, people are talking about the lottery being rigged. I didn't hear one person say that the Spurs jumped up 3 years in a row. I didn't hear one conspiracy theory about that. 2 years ago, they got Victor. Last year, they got the 4th pick and got the Rookie of the Year. And now they got the number 2 pick. Okay, send your energy over to other nonsense conspiracy theories. Let me point out that one team actually hit it 3 years in a row and might be a championship team in the next 2 or 3 years because of it. But what do I know? Anyway, the number 2 pick is where the draft is. I'm not going to be Jonathan Givony and break down the difference between Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, but there seems to be a bit of a gap between the teams want to have the 2 pick, and the number 2 pick I think is going to be available. And so either potentially whether the Spurs look to go star hunting, whether that's Giannis or somebody else, or whether another team looks to try to get up to number 2 and is willing to do some stuff for the Spurs. So to me, the interesting pick is what happened at number 2 in this draft, and I think we'll be talking about that going forward.
Well, Wendy, you mentioned Giannis. Any topic we talk about, whether it is the draft or a team getting eliminated, what do they do next? The next thing we jump to is Giannis. Are we wasting our time doing all these different machinations? Is he going to stay in Milwaukee, or do you think we'll see him elsewhere?
I don't know. I know you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, "Oh no, my sources." Honestly, the league doesn't really know. I think that Giannis has not fully had his discussion with the Bucks yet. I believe. Shouldn't say I believe. I know that Giannis and his wife recently welcomed a new child, and I suspect he's busy dealing with that. But obviously, at some point, this will have to become something that he discusses. I don't think it's 100% he's leaving Milwaukee. Do I think it's maybe headed in that direction? Do I think it's more likely now than it's ever been? Yes. Do I think it's a done deal? No. So we'll see how it plays out over the next couple of weeks. I do suspect around the start of the finals that we'll have an idea, because that's kind of when the league starts doing business. This is a big league business week. All 30 teams and all the agents have all been in Chicago all week for the Combine. I promise you, deals have been struck this week. Free agent deals were made this week. Trade deals were made this week. And, they'll roll out over the course of time, or they were set up. A huge amount of NBA business just got done this week. We just don't know yet. So that, I think, will start coming out. And when that sort of season starts, I think the Giannis thing will come into focus. But here's what I would say this. If Giannis were to call me up and ask for my consultation on what to do, I would probably advise him to leave Milwaukee, which I'd not say flippantly, but I would say East. Stay East. Look at the Western Conference. The Western Conference is a beast, and the number 1 pick just went to the West. The number 2 pick just went to the West. Those two teams are going to get stronger. If I were Giannis, I would say either Milwaukee is where I want to be, and I just want to be a Buck for life, or send me some team to the East. Because if winning the championship is his number 1 goal, and I mean, I hate to reference the Tatum thing, but the best team in the East, in my opinion, just got weaker for next season. Mm-hmm. So that's what I would advise.
Wendy, that being said, I'm just sitting here thinking about the teams that are considering themselves as championship contenders over the next several seasons, and the New York Knicks are firmly in that conversation. Yeah. They made a couple of win-now trades this offseason, bringing over Cat, bringing over Bridges. If the Knicks fall short of expectations, are they a team that could look to retool their roster? I know they've invested a hell of a lot of resources in this core of players, but could they be a team that gets involved with the star hunt this summer? Well,
by the way, I don't think they've fallen short of expectations. I think even if they lose the next 2 games, they've done great. I think they're an extremely mentally tough team. It's probably the most – I've seen a lot of mental weakness in the playoffs, and I see the Knicks, and I see mental toughness. Yeah. I really want to compliment them, and that's why I actually think tonight I feel like they're in a good position because I think they're mentally tough. I don't think they'll be affected by the moment. If the Celtics make 27 threes, they're not going to win. But okay. So, yeah, I do think the Knicks could make a trade. But I want to point something out. Whether it's Giannis or star player X, let's just say star player X, I don't think the Knicks can really win a bidding war. Okay? So, like, if Giannis comes on the market, and could the Knicks make an offer? Yes. Could they win? No. The only way I think a guy like Giannis gets there, or a guy like Kevin Durant, is if he says to his team, trade me to the Knicks, which could happen.
Is that allowed anymore? It didn't work with one guy, with Dame. I mean, everybody wanted
the difference was Dame had 4 years on his contract. You know, he didn't have agency. I think Giannis, he has 2 years. I think Giannis will have agency. Look, if Giannis says trade me to the Lakers and trade me nowhere else, and the Bucks don't like what the Lakers are offering, hypothetically,
right?
The 2 years on his contract, they wouldn't have to give him the total control, but he has more control than Dame did, without question.
Wendy, I want to drill back in on what you said about the Knicks being mentally tough, because I look at this series and I think, gosh, they have to win tonight. Think about the pressure that's on them. Not only do you have a fan base who's bloodthirsty for you to advance and to get this done, you're built to win now, and your opposition lost their best player. Oh, and Porzingis, is compromised.
Correct.
So if the Celtics somehow come back and they take this series, what would you describe the Knicks season as?
Well, look, if the Knicks lose the next 2 games, we're having a different discussion because we've had a transposing. The Knicks have gone from big underdog to big favorite. You know, they lose it now, it's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
What I would just say about this series is that nobody has won the game that I thought they were win. Maybe I sort of suspected that the Celtics would win Game 3, but even then, you're talking about winning the first road game of a series. Doesn't usually happen. So I have no idea. Like, if the Celtics win tonight, I could be back here on Monday going, yeah, I could see the Knicks winning Game 7 because this. The thing about it is I saw a stat that the Celtics are 9-2 over the last 3 years when they face elimination, and I have felt every single one of those because I've been at all those games and I've been scheduled to fly home the next day.
Is this a Windy sleep update?
And sleep and going home. Like how many times I've canceled my flight? These sons of, when they were down 3-0 to the Heat, they made it 3-3.
Yeah, and they lost Game 7 at home.
Yeah, so the Celtics win games you think they're going to lose and lose games you think they're going to win. That's what they do. And in this particular series, the team that you've sort of expected to lose has won every game, with arguably about Game 3. So I'm open-minded about tonight. If you were to say to me tonight, Knicks are winning, no doubt, I'd be like, yeah, I could definitely see it. I actually think the Knicks are in much better position tonight than they were in Game 5 because the Celtics had an uncertain game plan. The way the Celtics came out in the game and played Jalen Brown basically as a point forward. We've never seen Jalen Brown distribute the way he played. And the Knicks didn't quite know how to guard him. They'll be much more prepared in their game plan tonight, I think. So I actually think the Knicks are in a good spot coming into tonight's game. Again, the Celtics, the design of the Celtics if they hit their threes, when Jalen Brunson is spraying the ball, or Jalen Brown is spraying the ball and they're hitting their threes, you may lose. You may lose if they hit their 22 threes again. But they also may not hit 22 threes. They may hit 12 threes. And so if I'm a Knicks fan, I sense a lot of concern and worry in the city. I can already feel it. It's 7 a.m.
It's palpable.
Trust your team. That's what I would say.
Wendy, I just want to go back to one thing before we get a take on Oklahoma City, Denver Game 7, which obviously will be amazing. You said, and I want to be specific about this because I don't want anything taken out of context for Wendy. You said if Giannis called you and asked for your advice, you would say it's time, and it's time specifically to explore the East. Are there teams in the East, in this hypothetical, that you believe, if he wanted to leave, would have enough to satisfy Milwaukee? Not saying he's going there.
It's a good question. I haven't done enough research to be able to give you a strong answer on that. I would just say that, in general, when I look at the lay of the land, I would want to be in the Eastern Conference. When I look at the lay of the land, I don't think Milwaukee can really improve themselves a lot over the next year or two. So, in a vacuum, I would say I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to leave Milwaukee, and I would look to the Eastern Conference. Now, it depends on where he wants to live. It depends on many factors, but that's what I would do. I would say that, by the way, I would say that to any star player. Come East.
So we're talking Kevin Durant, and are there other situations we should be watching?
Yes, but we're not going to talk about them on air.
All right, Wendy, what we do want to talk about is Game 7, the best two words in sports, OKC and Denver. We're getting that over the weekend.
Yeah.
Now, Denver has been in 3 straight playoff series where they've gone to a Game 7. Conversely, only 3 guys on OKC with Game 7 experience. I mean, what do you expect to see in Game 7 in OKC?
There's 2 things about this. This is remarkable. Number one, the league has made the decision, and I don't know why, and it's on me to try to find out why, not to give out the MVP award right now. The standard operating procedure is that the MVP award is given out so that this player can receive it in front of his home crowd. So the league will sort of evaluate things, and they're like, this team might get eliminated, or this team's got plenty of time. We're going to get to the end of the work week here, and there's no MVP award giving out. Okay? So for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. So whoever wins the award, which we think is going to be Shea, there will be historic context attached to this game. You might as well put the MVP award at the center court, because if Jokic has a great Game 7 and the Nuggets win, Shea will always have that attached. Well, you won the MVP award, but Jokic should have won it and he beat you in Game 7. Whereas if Shea wins the MVP award and beats Jokic, it was like
double whammy.
So there's historical context in this game which we have not really seen before in the modern era. The second thing is Denver has played 7 games in 13 days or something like that. Crazy, tough run. They get 2 days off now. Could be a big difference. And the reason it could be a really big difference is that last night, right at the end of the game, Aaron Gordon tweaked his hamstring. He didn't have to come out of the game, but he was limping a little bit afterwards, and he said, I'm going into recovery right now. So I don't know. Denver cannot afford any of their core being knocked up, or not knocked up, knocked down, dinged up. They can't afford anything to be knocked up either. It'd be very
paternity leave would be bad right now. In general, it's not bad, but for Game 7,
it'd be very hard. Hopefully, Aaron Gordon and his family are fine. But dinged up. You don't want to have him dinged up. So that is something to keep an eye on what his health might be for